very good morning to everyone. I, Hariharan, on behalf of CMR University School of Legal Studies, would like to extend a hearty welcome to all the dignitaries who have joined us today for the inauguration of the Alternate Dispute Resolution Center amidst their busy schedule. In the words of Mark Lucado, conflict is inevitable, but combat is optional. Settlement of disputes through reference to a third party is part of the working East of India since times immemorial. It has undergone a phenomenal metamorphosis, growing from the stage of village elders sitting under a banyan tree and resolving disputes to a stage of gaining statutory recognition. India has put in place a progressive piece of legislation which is essentially based on the model United Nations arbitration rules. The Parliament enacted the Arbitration and Conciliation Act of 1996 with a view to making arbitration less technical and more useful and effective, which not only removes many serious defects of the earlier arbitration law, but also incorporates modern concepts of arbitration. What is now needed is the inculcation of the culture of arbitration within the bar, the bench, and the arbitral community. As a result, our alternate dispute resolution mechanisms have become crucial for businesses operating in India as well as those businesses doing business with Indian firms. So, alternate dispute resolution is necessary as a substitute to existing methods of dispute resolution, such as litigation, conflict, violence, physical fights, or rough handling of situations. It is a movement with a drive from evolving a positive approach and attitude towards resolving the disputes. Methods such as arbitration, conciliation, and mediation have been taking the forefront today. The Center for Mediation in our college will equip students with the necessary skills to become skilled arbitrators and mediators in the future. With this, I now would like to call Rashmi GS from first year LLB to invoke the blessings of God. Please, Rashmi.
आनेय मोरेय मूषिक वाहन वाग्वर नीति पयोदिनमो आनेय मोरेय मूषिक वाहन वाग्वर नीति पयोदिनमो दीनर पालिसु अंकुशधारणे दीनर पालिसु अंकुशधारणे सन्मनधात सुपूज्य नमो सन्मनधात सुपूज्य नमो आनेय मोरय मूषिक वाहन वाग्वर नीति पयोदिनमो आनन सुंदर विघ्न विनाशक आनन सुंदर विघ्न विनाशक पालय सन्नुत सिंधु नमो आनन सुंदर विघ्न विनाशक पालय सन्नुत सिंधु नमो षण्मुख सोदर पार्वती कुंवरा षण्मुख सोदर पार्वती कुंवरा मोदक हस्त विलास नमो मोदक हस्त विलास नमो आनेय मोरय मूषिक वाहन वाग्वर नीति पयोदिनमो वाग्वर नीति पयोदिनमो वाग्वर नीति पयोदिनमो Thank you.
Thank you, Vidisha, for the melodious rendition. Now, I would like to call upon Vidisha Das to deliver the introductory address. Please, Vidisha.
Good morning to everyone present here. I, Vidisha from 5th year BLLB, would like to give an introduction on today's event, which is regarding Center for Alternative Dispute Resolution at CMR University, School of Legal Studies. The Alternative Dispute Resolution refers to The alternative dispute resolution refers to any means of settling disputes outside of the courtroom. ADR typically includes early neutral evaluation, negotiation, conciliation, mediation, arbitration, and lok adalat. This is a new and emerging interdisciplinary field that is concerned with, inter alia, the following themes: the study of the causative structural factors and the subjective motives of the actors giving rise to disputes, the study of the formal and informal institutions dedicated to the resolution of disputes, and the study of the laws and regulations to produce fair outcomes of disputes. The center is established with the purpose of conducting and promoting research, generating and disseminating knowledge in the field of alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. Our aim is to train young law students in the practice of various ADR mechanisms, such as negotiations, mediation, lok adalat, and client counseling, in the hope that these students alter the way we look at and resolve disputes. This center will serve with the same objectives to the aspiring students. We aim to provide a platform for ADR enthusiasts from across the country to interact with the student body to facilitate knowledge and growth in this emerging field. We also believe in providing safe spaces for learning and do our part in facilitating the same on the university campus. Further, the center will work tirelessly to provide students like me, young practitioners, and experts a platform to exchange ideas and network. Thank you.
Thank you, Vidisha. Now, I would like to call upon Shreya Srivastava from 7th semester BBA LLB to introduce our beloved Dean, Professor Dr. T.R. Subramania. Please, Shreya.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to everybody once again. To be inspired is great, but to be an inspiration is an honor. On that note, I feel it is my privilege to introduce our chief guest and the guest of honors of this event, who are inspiration to many. Our function is also adorned by our beloved Dean, Professor Dr. T.R. Subramania, who is known for his futuristic vision and zeal to reform the society. Our Dean, an esteemed personal, Dean, one of a kind, has obtained his MPhil and PhD in the field of international law from the School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, in the year 1993. He has contributed ever since and acquired vast knowledge in the laws and legal systems of the Gulf Cooperation Council and also in practical application of international law at municipal level. Further, speaking of his contribution, in the international level, he has served as the legal advisor to the Kingdom of Bahrain for over 7 years. His other contributions include Registrar in Charge, Administration, Registrar Evaluation, and Vice Chancellor in Charge, Bangalore University, also Dean and Chairman of the Faculty of Law in Bangalore University. He was also the Vice Chancellor of Karnataka State Law University, Hubli, and a coordinator and research fellow at the Center for Regulatory Studies, Governance and Public Policy, and a professor in the West Bengal National University of Juridical Sciences, Kolkata. Professor Dr. T.R. Subramania is currently serving as the Dean of CMR University, School of Legal Studies. The School of Legal Studies has proud privilege of having Sir as its Dean. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shreya. May I now request our beloved Dean, Professor Dr. T.R. Subramania, to deliver the welcome address. Please, sir.
A very good morning to all of you present here. On behalf of the Board of Management and the members of the Governing Council, I deem it a great privilege to welcome today's chief guest, Sri Shankar Ganapati Pandit, Honorable Judge, High Court of Karnataka. When we requested him, he just said, I will come and deliver the address. I also deem it a great privilege to welcome the Honorable Justice, former Judge, High Court of Karnataka, Mr. Bodhi Hall, and the sitting member of the sitting judicial member of the Administrative Tribunal of the Karnataka government. And in addition to it, Madam Sarathi, Sushila Sarathi is always with us, and she has been training our students whenever an occasion comes in. Madam, I deem it a great privilege to welcome you too as well. On behalf of the CMR Law School, I consider it a great privilege to welcome our Honorable Chairman, Sri K.C. Ramurthy, who in spite of his hectic schedule, found time and to be with us and to grace the occasion. We also welcome our Pro Vice Chancellor, Sri Bhaskar Reddy, respected registrar, and almost all the members of the Administrative Council of the CMR University. Now, the very purpose has been indicated to you, and ultimately the students should get good exposure. And exposure which they get here and in which they are trained should go a long way, and it should be very handy in serving the cause of society. And with this in view, we have established a lot of things. We hope to do it, and with the blessings of elders and with the blessings of everyone, we'll be able to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words, sir. May I now request Shreya to read the biodata of our chief guest, Honorable Mr. Justice Shankar Ganapati Pandit. Please, Shreya.
It is my tremendous honor to introduce our chief guest, Honorable Mr. Justice Shankar Ganapati Pandit. He was born on 16th November 1965 in Honavar, attained his early education at Sirsi in Uttar Kannada district, Karnataka. Further, he graduated in the stream of commerce in the year 1986 from Bangalore University. Honorable Mr. Justice S.G. Pandit studied and obtained his law degree from Sri Jagadguru Renukacharya College of Law, Bangalore in the year 1989, and enrolled himself under the Karnataka State Bar Council the following year. Sir also started his career by practicing in the chambers of late Sri K. Gopala Hegde, then retired district and sessions judge and a former member of Central Excise and Gold Control Appellate Tribunal. Well-versed practice of law in civil, particularly in the departments such as service, education, labor law, land acquisition, and many more. He is a person very soft-spoken and courteous to the court of law while arguing the cases without in any way letting down the interest of the client and maintaining the decor of the court in a dignified manner. Furthermore, Sir has served as panel advocate in many boards and corporations and has also represented planning authorities, including Bangalore Metropolitan Region Development Authority. He has been appointed as additional judge of the High Court of Karnataka and currently became permanent judge on 7 January 2020. A person with such magnitude will truly inspire us. He has always been supremely confident of himself and his judgment. It is our proud privilege to have him as the chief guest. Thank you.
Thank you, Shreya. May I now request Honorable Justice Shankar Ganapati Pandit, sir, to inaugurate the center and deliver the inaugural address. Please, sir.
Yes, good morning to one and all. Honorable Justice Budihal RB, former Judge, High Court of Karnataka and Acting Chairman, Karnataka State Administrative Tribunal, Mrs. Sushila Sarathi, Senior Counsel, High Court of Karnataka, Sri K.C. Ramurthy, IPS, Chairman, CMR Group of Institutions, Dr. Savita Ramurthy, Chancellor, CMR University, Professor T.R. Subramanya, Dean, School of Legal Studies, CMR University, members of Administrative Council and other dignitaries of the University, and my dear students of CMR Law School. Pandemic COVID-19 has brought in significant change in our life and lifestyle and drastic makeover at our workplaces, which has led to virtual platforms. I am elated and privileged to be amongst you virtually to declare open the CMR University School of Legal Studies Center on Alternate Dispute Resolution. I hereby declare open the Center on Alternate Dispute Resolution. I am informed that CMR University has initiated the establishment of an ADR center at CMRU School of Legal Studies campus, which shall be the student committee entrusted with the responsibility of administrating ADR activities. It is a novel and laudable initiative to entrust the ADR center to the student committee, the responsibility of ADR activities. I wish every success for this venture. To start my inaugural address, I quote Abraham Lincoln, quote, "Discourage litigation. Persuade your neighbors to compromise whenever you can. Point out to them how the nominal winner is often a real loser in fees, expenses, and waste of time. As a peacemaker, the lawyer has a superior opportunity of being a good man," unquote. Settlement of disputes through reference to a third party is a part of India since times immemorial. Krishna Sandhana of Mahabharata is an embedded narrative of what we now call mediation or conciliation. Alternate dispute resolution has undergone a phenomenal metamorphosis, growing from the stage where the elders of the village sitting under the trees to resolve differences to the stage of gaining a statutory recognition. Alternate dispute resolution refers to a range of dispute settlement methods which help the parties in the dispute to come to a settlement without going to court or without litigation on the said matter. These methods usually involve a neutral intervener assisting the parties to identify the matter of concern, understand better the situation upon which they develop, and arrive at a mutually agreed proposal resolving the dispute. There exists a difference between winning a case and finding a solution. Arriving at a solution makes both the parties a winner in this scenario. ADR is a process in which the neutral intervener assists negotiating the parties in resolving the dispute. ADR is shift from adversarial litigation. Arbitration is an alternate mode of dispute resolution. In India, arbitration was statutorily recognized as one of the mode of dispute resolution under Indian Arbitration Act 1899, which was confined only to presidency terms. Thereafter, a more specific Arbitration Act was enacted in the year 1940, the Arbitration Act 1940. The Arbitration Act 1940 lacked in many areas and it only dealt with domestic arbitration. To overcome the shortcomings in the Arbitration Act of 1940, and to meet the present day challenges, Arbitration and Conciliation Act of 1996 was enacted. Alternate dispute resolution is the need of the hour. The courts have huge pendency and are burdened with all sorts of disputes that are to be adjudicated. In this regard, the legislature has enacted Arbitration and Conciliation Act in 1996 and has also gone further to insert Section 89 in the CPC by way of the Code of Civil Procedure Amendment Act 1999, which provides for settlements of disputes outside the court. By this, the ADR is now statutorily recognized, whereas it was considered as a voluntary act on the part of the parties earlier to the insertion of Section 89 in CPC. Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996 was enacted with a view inter alia to develop fair and efficient system of arbitration with minimal judicial intervention. By this, India has put in place a progressive piece of legislation, which is essentially based on the model law and the UNCITRAL arbitration rules. Under the Arbitration Act, disputes can be referred to arbitration only on a contractual clause between the parties. The parties must have agreed to settle their disputes through arbitration in their contract. In arbitration, the parties have the right to choose an arbitrator, but arbitration is an adjudicatory process. Whereas other modes of ADR such as conciliation, mediation, or non-adjudicatory processes In conciliation and mediation, third party identified by the parties renders assistance to the parties to reach mutually agreeable settlement. In conciliation, the conciliator persuades the parties to arrive at conciliation suggested by him in the course of conciliation. In mediation, the mediator evolves solution to the disputes between the parties. Mediation is a unique process which is voluntary and parties have an option of choosing their mediator. The decision making is in the hands of the parties with the assistance of the mediator. While Section 89 CPC mandates the court to refer the dispute to any one of the dispute resolution methods, it is left for the parties to choose any one of the alternate dispute mechanism. In today's age of globalization, arbitration has gained tremendous significance and is a preferred mode of dispute resolution both domestically and internationally. It is needless to say that arbitration centers play a cardinal role in bridging the gap between the parties to the dispute and the concept of alternate dispute resolution. It provides a definite structure. Such centers are a gift to the society. People at large are overreaching beneficiaries. The advantages of alternate dispute resolution is it is less expensive, it is less time consuming, it is free from technicalities that are present in the court system. The parties are free to differ in their opinion and can discuss their opinions with each other without any fear of disclosure of this fact before the courts. ADR is more suitable for multi-party disputes as all the parties can put forward their opinions at the same place and in one go, rather than visiting the courts on several occasions, going to court again and again. Also, it provides for a wider perspective of the dispute. The parties often have the choice of ADR method to be used. They sometimes also have the choice to select the individuals or bodies who will settle the dispute. The process is also very flexible according to what suits the parties. The parties also have the option of being confidential. The ADR system also enables the parties to put focus on the practical solutions. A wider range of issues are considered and shared. Future interests of the parties are protected. As a practice, while I was practicing as advocate, I always used to try and attempt to solve the dispute of my clients without going to court. If no other solution cropped up, only then I would suggest to approach the judicial forms. When I sit as a mediator in the Lok Adalat sessions organized by the Karnataka State Legal Services Authority, I try and convince the parties their entitlement, which they would get ultimately in the litigation, which would take years together. I suggest them to accept the same fruit which they would reap after losing both money and time by fighting the cases in court. Of course, all of this becomes applicable based on the mindset of the parties in the dispute. As ADR has successful in lessening the burden of traditional courts, today's budding advocates need to be trained to practice various ADR mechanisms. With the establishment of the ADR Center at CMRU today, the CMR University has moved a step forward to facilitate students to gain knowledge and growth in this emerging field. Dear students, you are fortunate to have the guidance of Dr. T.R. Subramania, Dean. Under his guidance, I look forward that the law students of CMR University would utilize the ADR Center of the university to the optimum, and I expect them to be fully equipped to solve the dispute in ADR forms after completion of their law degree when they jump into ocean of legal field. Let us all hope that this platform will develop a different perspective in students towards resolving disputes and fulfill its mandate. Wishing you all success for your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It is heartening to know that when you were a lawyer, you encouraged methods of alternate dispute resolution. I would also like to point out to the audience about how sir mentioned that there is a huge difference between winning a case and settling a dispute. Thank you, sir. May I now invite Shreya to read the biodata of a guest of honor, Honorable Mr. Justice Budihal, former Judge, High Court of Karnataka. Please, Shreya.
It is my honor to introduce the guest of honor, Honorable Mr. Justice Budihal RB, who has completed and enrolled as an advocate in the year 1983, practiced in both civil and criminal court at Bagalkot and Bijapur. Further, Sir was appointed as District and Sessions Judge in the year 1996. He served as an additional District and Sessions Judge at Bangalore and Gulbarga, and as Principal District and Sessions Judge at Gadag, Bangalore, and Belgaum, one after the other. Sir has also served as the Registrar Judicial and Vigilance, been a Secretary to Honorable Chief Justice and Registrar General. Further, he was appointed as Additional Judge of the High Court of Karnataka in the year 2013 and made permanent in the year 2016. Sir has retired from his services as the Judge of High Court of Karnataka on 30th September 2018. In his farewell addressing, he said, "There is no substitute to hard work," while stressing on the values to be inculcated by young lawyers. He has also been recognized for bringing down the number of pending criminal matters. His Excellency the President of India appointed him as judicial member of Karnataka State Administrative Tribunal, and on June 14, 2019, His Lordship assumed charge as judicial member of Karnataka State Administrative Tribunal. His values and excellence shall be preserved and cherished. Every student should try and inculcate some of the values he owns. We are proud to have Honorable Mr. Justice Budihal in today's function. Thank you.
Thank you, Shreya. May I now request Honorable Mr. Justice Budihal RB, sir, to enlighten us with a few words. Please, sir.
My brother Judge, Honorable Sri Justice S.G. Pandit, my Guru and my professor, Dr. Sri T.R. Subramaniam, now Dean of this CMR School of Law, University. Respected Madam Srimati Susila, working in the Bangalore Mediation Center as a coordinator. All my brothers and sisters, students who are participated in this program, and also my beloved Hariharan program convener, and all the invitees. Today this function has been organized by Dr. T.R. Subramaniam with the object of establishing this ADR dispute resolution centers at places, so that it will give an opportunity to the students of law to have a more exposure in the society, in the legal field particularly, and in the business field. It is an occasion for all the students to study this ADR dispute resolution system mechanism, and even this will help many of the students in their future career, that they can have the specialization in a particular subject like alternative dispute resolution mechanism, like arbitration, mediation, conciliation, like this. Dr. Subramaniam has taken a very important and bold decision of establishing such centers at different places, and it is for the student community to take the advantage of such the opportunity that has been provided. And when Dr. Subramaniam contacted me over phone, inviting me as a guest of honor to this function, he told me that there should be some sort of inspiration to the students. So when we say that there should be an inspiration, that inspiration, it should not only to the arbitration proceedings or the ADR mechanism, it should be for all the subjects in our life that is required required. And for that purpose, we have to see that a person who is dealing with a particular specialization. So for this, and by way of an inspiration, I can say that for me, the inspiration, the first person from whom I have the inspiration is my guru that I have already told, Dr. T.R. Subramaniam, because he is my professor in the University College of Law at Dharwad and teaching us the international law. I can say it is not an exaggeration if I made a statement before all of you that for delivering one lecture of 1 hour, sir used to sit in the library of the University Law College for a period of 5 hours for one lecture of 1 hour lecture. This itself goes to show what is the devotion that he was having towards the teaching profession as such. Therefore, always what happens to come up in the life, particularly in the law profession, which is very challenging compared to all other professions in the society, that only the industry and hard work that will be counted. Unless and until you are having that much of the devotion to your professional duty, then it is not possible or it is not easy to come up or stand in the field, because you know that there, if you show that succeed in your professional career. We can also make reference to some of the eminent personalities to have such a kind of inspiration for our future career or to study the field of law is concerned. You know that who is the first, the Indian judge who adorned to the bench of the High Court? Yes. Shambhunath Pandit, Justice Shambhunath Pandit from Calcutta, he is the first Indian judge who adorned to the High Court of the Calcutta. And you please see the life history of this, the eminent and the extraordinary judge, Justice Shambhunath Pandit. His career, that he was with the poverty, discontinued his study when he was going to the high school. And the family, though it is from the Jammu and Kashmir, it is shifted and migrated to the Calcutta. And when he was studying, because of the poverty, he discontinued his study. In the year 1841, he was appointed as only an assistant to work in the record room of a court. It was in 1841. And subsequently that he was appointed as a decree jari mohariya. It was in a British rule, decree jari mohariya, under the leadership of Lord Robert Stowe. Then he was entrusted with the work of looking to the execution matters and looking to the documents produced in the court proceedings. He studied Persian, he studied English, he studied this the Urdu language, and when he was looking into the files as a decree jari amal the execution, the work of execution, that he used to go through all the files containing the important documents. You know, because of his study at length, he became an expert in the execution matters. You please see, a clerk who is an assistant in the record room of a court, and by his hard and the work that he has done in this the particular branch of law, and he attained the efficiency, proficiency in his the work is concerned. And ultimately what happens now, he, with the assistance and with the charity of his friends and some of the honorable judges, he completed his the pleader's degree at that time. And ultimately what happens now, he become the senior most government advocate, and he is next, the first, the Indian judge who become and add on to the bench of the Calcutta High Court. Of course, there was one judge who happened to be the first judge, that is a Ram. There is one Ram Manohar Rai. He was happened to be the first judge who is said to be the son of the great the political leader Raja Ram Mohan Rai. His name was recommended, but ultimately, unfortunately, what happens now? Before this appointment letter reaches India, he expired, and that was the reason how Justice Shambhunath Pandit, he was elevated to the bench of the Calcutta High Court as the first Indian judge. And you see, when his lordship was sitting with the foreign judge, the first chief justice, foreign chief justice in India, who worked in the High Court, one of the High Court in India is Burns Peacock. Sir Burns Peacock is the first chief justice of the foreign country. And Dr. Shambhunath Pandit, justice, was sitting along with the Honorable Chief Justice Burns Peacock. And his work performance in the bench is concerned, it was appreciated by the Honorable, the foreign Chief Justice who was working in India like anything. And particularly that I have already told, in the execution matters, wonderful knowledge that he has acquired because of his working in the court record room is concerned. This is how a person who, if he is done his duty and he is having so much of devotion, then in that case it is possible to achieve and go to such an extent is concerned. That is, this is also that we can have one of the example that we can say that we have to do our hard work. You can take another, the leading lawyer from Allahabad. You might have heard the name of the Kailasnath Kadju. Kailasnath Kadju, when he completed his law degree, what was his condition? His father was having one office in at Allahabad, and that the office it is a dilapidated office, no furnitures. And this Kailasnath Kadju, that he was having the property left by his father, that is only a cotton blanket. He used to spread this on the floor of the office, and he used to sit with a cross legs. And in his beginning career, what happens now? One client by name Bachchu Singh Thakur, who was wandering in the court premises, rolling 2 rolls of papers in his hand, and he approached the Kailasnath Kadju, and he asked, "You are accepting the brief of some other the litigants. Why not you are not accepting my brief?" Then Kadju said, "No, I never said that I am not going to accept your brief." Then he accepted the brief of the Bachchu Singh Thakur. And when it came to be known by the members of the bar that Kailasnath Kadju, a beginner in the profession, he has have you worried about
Sir, your voice is muted, sir.
when he was asked whether before accepting, so he said that when I have accepted the brief, it is my duty to fight out the matter in the court of law. Then he started studying this brief of the Thakur Singh, Bachchu Thakur Singh, and he studied. You may not believe if I make a statement about the study in respect of that only particular one case. It was a case on mortgage, and the point involved in that particular case is it was a point of limitation. And 2 times the matter was fought out. The property which was belonging to the father of this Bachchu Singh Thakur, it is worth millions and crores of rupees property, which has went into the hands of a big industrialist. Against this, the Bachchu Singh Thakur, when Kailasnath Kadju appeared in the matter, The other side engaged 3 eminent senior most members of the bar of Allahabad. Then Kailasnath Kadju, he taken a decision that he wanted to produce the documents which the Bachchu Singh Thakur was having his client, that there out of the 2 documents, one was the certified copy and another was only a typed copy. Somehow he has taken a decision that let us produce both these 2 documents before the court of law. Then subsequently what happens now, message was sent to the other side. The litigant, he brought to the notice of the 3 senior most members of the bar that they have produced 2 documents. Then the seniors said that no, let him produce what is there. We will argue the main matter itself. Then same was conveyed to the court and it was recorded. Ultimately, when the argument started, then when he make a submission and the other side came to know that out of the 2 documents, one is the certified copy and another is only a typed copy, then they raised immediately the objection regarding consideration of the typed copy of the document. Then Kailasnath Kadju, he made a submission to the bench. Now they cannot raise the objection because they have not raised such an objection at the initial stage. They have admitted my documents. Therefore, as per the law of pleadings, facts admitted need not be amended at all. Ultimately, when he was arguing the matter, even at the time of argument also, the learned judge make a remark. Yes, Mr. Kadju, that is true, but your kite is having a very thin string. Even then, Kailasnath Kadju was not perturbed. He continued his argument and ultimately, you know, what is the result of that litigation? He won that case. When he won that case, all the press reporters surrounded Kailasnath Kadju and they put one question. Yes, you fight out the matter that the subject matter having the valuation of worth rupees more than crores or the millions. We want to know what is the fees paid by your client. The first sentence uttered by Kailasnath Kadju is priceless. It is priceless. But secondly, he told, anyhow, you are interested to know what is my professional fees. He said, when I accepted the brief of Bachchu Singh Thakur, he paid rupees 35. And when I won the case, he paid another 35 rupees. Totally, my professional fee in this case is 70 rupees enough. But he said, it is not the fees that matters, but it is the opportunity that my client has given to me to stand before the bench and to make my representation. He gave me an opportunity of courageous argument before the bench. He gave me an opportunity to study the matter at length, months together. Only one matter, he went to the revenue office. All the revenue records he has studied. This is how that I can say. And in the autobiography, the Kailasnath Kadju, what he has written, the words you please see, that in whatever position I am today, it is because of my client Bachchu Singh Thakur. These are the words in the autobiography. This is how that I can make a submission before all of you. Whenever a brief is accepted of a client, whether it is small or it is big, anyhow, any matter coming before the court or before the arbitration center or before mediation center, it is having a point of law. You can study that point of law sincerely and honestly before making a presentation before the court of law. This is all what is required. Therefore, looking to the life history of such a personalities, we can have some inspiration in our life also, that how we can study, how we can devote, how that we can devote our duty towards our profession is concerned. This is all required. I can make one the advocate, eminent advocate of London, and how he was in his profession. Sergeant Hill is the name of that particular advocate. Sergeant Hill, a advocate from London. What was his professional career? It is stated like this. Sergeant Hill, when he used to go to his law office, when he used to emerge in his law profession, he completely becomes insensible about his surroundings. He don't know who come to the office, who sat, who went away. He completely insensible about all these things. This was his devotion when he was emerged in his law profession. Further, it is said, even on the day of his marriage, when he go to the chamber as usual and emerged in his law profession, he completely forgotten that his marriage was fixed on that day only. Bride was waiting in the marriage pandal. Messenger rushed to the chamber of this Sergeant Hill advocate He brought to his notice that his marriage was fixed on that day only. Then he obeyed the orders of the messenger, go to the marriage pandal, got married. Again, he goes to the chamber as usual. These are the words about this particular advocate, eminent lawyer from England. Like this, we can have so many examples in our life to have such an inspiration in our life. Therefore, what all I am requesting before all my brother and sister students, that when such a task that has been taken by your beloved principal, the dean of this, the esteemed institution, to open the ADR, the centers, alternative dispute resolution centers, then you have to accept it very sincerely, and you have to bring a good name and fame to your the dean. And his only anxiety that our students must study this branch of law also. Why not? This subject is also to be studied by our students, and some of them, they become the experts in that particular branch of law. Then they will be respected by the society at large. That is only the anxiety of the principal or the dean, Dr. Subramaniam, is concerned. Therefore, my only request to students is, when such a new law that is we are going to study, we have to devote our time and we have to study it. And the Honorable Judge S.G. Pandit has already delivered his inaugural address, wherein he made the reference about the old Arbitration Act in the 1940, what are the drawbacks, and how this the new act, Arbitration Act, Arbitration and Conciliation Act of 1996 came into force to have these measures about the Act of 1940, which is silent about all these things. The Honorable Judge has already delivered a wonderful lecture on that subject. Therefore, new branches of law, whenever it is there, you might have read the important, a very good judgment of Honorable Sri Justice Ravindra, new section 89, amended section 89, which was amended in 1999, laying down that what are the other alternative dispute resolution systems are concerned. And his lordship has made a elaborated discussion what type of matters can be referred to the arbitration, what type of matters are referred to the mediation, conciliation, and what subject cannot be, the matters cannot be referred to the arbitration. All about these things are concerned, Khan's case is concerned, and you can read that particular judgment also. It will become very easy for you to know about this concept of ADR methods. And so far as ADR methods are concerned, you know that every day that we are facing the new challenges before the court, every day that is there. You know that in the Corona period, what has happened, the COVID-19, have you seen what is the new challenge before the judiciary? There, petitions are filed throughout the country before all the honorable high courts, ultimately honorable Supreme Court, that is under section 167 subclass 2 of the CRPC. You know that provision 167 subclass 2, it deals with the investigation in case of serious offenses like murder, rape, kidnap, and concerned, wherein the punishment is more than 10 years or life imprisonment or capital punishment. Then the investigation is to be completed within a period of 90 days. Charge sheet is to be filed before the court by the police. In case of lesser offenses, the period fixed is 60 days. Charge sheet is to be filed. If the charge sheet is not filed within this specified time is concerned, then sections 167 subclass 2 CRPC, it gives an indefeasible right to get the accused on bail. It is called statutory bail. When you say that it is a statutory bail, court need not consider the merits of the case. Court only has to consider whether this charge sheet is filed within the specified time or not. Is the only consideration before the court. Now during the period, COVID period, what happens now? Charge sheet was not filed within 90 days in serious offenses and within 60 days in case of less severe offenses. Then the accused, they rush to the court and they file the application under 167 subclass 2 before many high courts. Then divergent opinions we receive. You might have seen. One, the high court says that no, they are not entitled. Another high court says that no, they are entitled. So because of these conflicting decisions by the different high court, ultimately the matter was settled by the Honorable Supreme Court. What the Honorable Supreme Court said, The right of an accused under section 167 subclass 2 CRPC is indefeasible right. Therefore, only because of the COVID reason that we have not completed our investigation within a specified period of 90 days or 60 days is no ground at all. The accused are entitled for bail on the statutory ground. This is the judgment delivered by the Honorable Apex Court. Like this, many new challenges come before the court that we have to, the judiciary has to make arrangement to meet such new challenges. Therefore, for the early disposal, you know that under Article 21, to get his case decided early is also a part of fundamental right of the accused, the persons who are attending the courts of law. When that is so, early disposal of the case when it is possible. My brother judge, the Honorable Justice S.G. Pandit has already referred to this. Because the courts are overburdened, then it is necessary that the litigations are to be resolved through the alternative dispute resolution mechanism is concerned. That is the reason the matters have to be settled through Lok Adalats under the Karnataka Legal Services Authority Act, or by referring to the mediation center, or by referring to the conciliation, the procedures, or arbitration proceedings. Like this, the alternative dispute resolution mechanism that was recognized, to which the matters are going to be referred, and we are getting a good results also even outside the courts of law is concerned. That is one of the important achievement in the legal field. Now coming to the present act 1996, that is Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996 is concerned, I can only give a bird's eye view about this, the act at present. We can delve with this matter in detail by having the interaction session also. And for having the interaction session, what happens, it requires that even the students first, well in advance, they must go through the judgments. If they wanted to discuss about any, the observation made by their lordships in that particular judgment, about any particular provision, about the real interpretation of that provision is concerned, that we can have a very another session. But presently what I can say, when the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996 is there, parties wanted to provision under the new act is section 11 is the very relevant provision. And so far as the domestic, the arbitrations are concerned, Honorable Chief Justices of the High Courts are having the jurisdiction over the matter. So far as the international commercial arbitration is concerned, it is the Supreme Court of India having the Chief Justice is having the jurisdiction about this aspect is concerned. And the relevant clause under section 11 is section 11 subclass 6 for both Honorable Chief Justices and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is concerned. Whenever a party approaches the Honorable High Court or the Honorable Supreme Court, so far as the international, the commercial arbitrations are concerned, then in that case, what happens now? Because why this power is given to a highest authorities like a Chief Justice of the High Court and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is concerned, because their lordships are having a vast knowledge in that particular field because of their rich experience. That is the main reason to invest this power, important, the power with the Chief Justices of the High Court and Chief Justice of the Honorable Supreme Court is concerned. Now the question is, what is the nature of the power that the Honorable Chief Justice and Honorable Chief Justice of India are going to exercise? So far as the arbitration aspect is concerned, appointment of the arbitrator is concerned, invoking the section 11 subclass 6 is concerned, whether it is judicial in nature or whether it is administrative in nature. This is one of the important point that one has to consider before the exercising the jurisdiction for appointment of the arbitrator or the arbitrator tribunal is concerned. So for this, I can make my mention that in this regard, you have to refer to one important judgment of the constitution-based judgment of the Honorable Apex Court. What is that judgment? That judgment is rendered in the Konkan Railway Corporation. Konkan Railway Corporation is the case decided by the Constitution Bench of the Honorable Supreme Court of India, and its citation is 2002-2. Yes. Citation, Konkan Railway Corporation 2002 2 the power exercised by the Honorable Chief Justices of the High Court or the Honorable Chief Justice of India, it is administrative in nature. That was the judgment. But subsequently, what happens now in SBC company, the matter was decided by the 7 benches judgment. The 7 bench judgment took another decision, and it is by majority of 6:1. 6:1, because one Honorable Judge Tucker, the judge of the Supreme Court in the bench of 7 judge benches, he took another view. No, it is not judicial, nor it is quasi-judicial. The power exercised by the Honorable Chief Justices of the High Court and Honorable Chief Justice of India, it is only administrative in character. That is the dissenting judgment by Justice Tucker is concerned. But the majority view, the 6 honorable judges, they took the view after elaborately discussing. You please go through the judgment of 7 judge bench. I will give the citation of that judgment also. What their lordships have held is, it cannot be said that the power to be exercised by the Honorable Chief Justices of the High Court as well as the Supreme Court, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, it is only in administrative nature. It is judicial in nature, because whenever such an application is moved before the Honorable Chief Justice of the High Court or before the Chief Justice of the India, then in that case, their lordships have to consider what are the aspects to be considered, though they were considered to be preliminary in nature. First, they have to decide their own jurisdiction. Very important that I am making a submission. Their own jurisdiction, whether I am having the power to exercise for making an appointment or for refusal of this application is concerned. First, that is to be the jurisdiction of the Honorable Chief Justice himself is to be decided. Because throughout India, what happens, the application by one of the party to the arbitration agreement may be moved in the High Court of Karnataka. But suppose in reality, the High Court of West Bengal, High Court of Maharashtra is really having the jurisdiction, then how the Karnataka Chief Justice can exercise the jurisdiction and make an appointment. Therefore, the lordship said, looking to this nature, that how they have to decide the matter, they have to decide the preliminary inquiry, their own jurisdiction, and whether there is a valid arbitration agreement is there or not between the parties, whether the party who approached the Honorable High Court or the Honorable Supreme Court, whether he is a party to the arbitration agreement or not. The next one is whether the claim made by the parties under the arbitration agreement is alive and subsisting, or it is a dead claim. So these are all the issues wherein the Chief Justice has to apply his mind, and he has to take a decision before making an appointment of the arbitrator or arbitral tribunal. Therefore, the court comes to the conclusion in that 7 judge bench judgment by majority of 6:1, it is purely judicial in nature, but it cannot be said that it is only administrative in nature. But the dissenting judgment, the lordship Tucker, C.K. Tucker is also lordship his own opinion. What the lordship said, no, in that preliminary issues, when they were considered by the Honorable Chief Justice, they are not going to decide the rights of the parties. There is no question of the deciding rights of the parties at that stage, because they are the preliminary objections. They were considered, they were purely administrative in nature, and one cannot say that it is said to be judicial function of the Honorable Chief Justices. This is one aspect. Now coming to the next one, whenever the Honorable Chief Justice has taken a view and pass an order under section 11 subclass 6 appointing an arbitrator, then it is appealable order. This appeal lies to the Honorable Supreme Court under Article 136 of the Constitution. But if the same order is passed by the Honorable Chief Justice, it is not appealable, because you know that in any litigation, it is appealable further to any other forums are concerned. That order becomes final. Next aspect that is we have to consider is whether.
Sorry for interruption. Sorry for interruption. Today is Martyrs' Day. We shall observe 2 minutes silence and then we shall continue.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So I have made a mention that about the order passed by the Honorable Chief Justice of India under invoking section 11 subclass 6, it is non-appealable, it becomes final. So therefore, what it goes to show that the appellate power is only in respect of the order passed by the Honorable Chief Justices of the High Court, and the appeal lies to the Honorable Supreme Court under Article 136. Now the next question is whether the powers vested in the Chief Justices of the High Courts and the Honorable Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, whether it can be delegated in its entirety. So dealing with the matter himself, he can designate any other judge of the High Court himself. And so also the Honorable Chief Justice of India can designate any other judge of the Supreme Court himself to deal with the matter and to take a decision in the matter. Therefore, this is with regard to the delegation of the powers. That delegation can be done, and then it is the duty and responsibility of the designated judge to consider these aspects of the matter and to take a decision in the matter is also another important aspect that we have to consider. Now, under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996, what are the matters which cannot be referred to the arbitration? Here, the Act says that some of the litigations, they cannot be referred to the arbitration. One is matrimonial or the family matters. And next one is corruption proceedings. Third one, insolvency proceedings. And the fourth one, anti-competition matters. And the fifth one, that the matters which are commercial court matters. These are all the matters which cannot be referred to the arbitration. So also, the contract of employment also cannot be referred to the arbitration is another one. But even if it is so, a dispute between the director and the company, it can be referred to the arbitration because there is no master and servant relationship in between the two. Both are the independent bodies, director as well as the company. Such disputes in between them can be referred to the arbitration. And the statutory reliefs are available by the statutory tribunals. Such type of matters cannot be referred to the arbitration because statutory reliefs are there and they were available under the statute by the statutory tribunals. Therefore, there is no need for referring the matters to the arbitration is concerned is also another important aspect that we have to look into. Then the next aspect, under the arbitration agreement, parties can approach the court on two circumstances. First one, in order to obtain the interim relief or the by way of injunction or appointment of the court receiver. For this, under the arbitration agreement, this is one circumstance that parties can approach to the Honorable Court. And the second is concerned that in order to appoint the arbitrator, because another arbitrator is not agreeable for that, that is the occasion that they can approach the court under the arbitration agreement. These are the two circumstances. And challenging this arbitrator is concerned, whether it can be challenged before the court of law. So far as appointment of the arbitrator, it is also under two circumstances. That when this arbitrators, the independency and impartiality that has been challenged. Arbitrators, independence and impartiality that has been challenged, it is also one of the ground for seeking the challenging to the appointment of the arbitrator. You know that impartiality, how important it is, because you know, when a great judge of this country, Justice H.R. Khanna, was invited to the Supreme Court Bar Association, while delivering the lecture, Supreme Court Bar Association, the Honorable Great Judge, he made a mention, impartiality is the soul of independent judiciary. Please see, impartiality is the soul of the independent judiciary are the wordings of the great judge while addressing the Supreme Court Bar Association. Therefore, in any case, if there are reasonable grounds for the parties to believe that there are certain grounds that they found that this person is not independent or this person, the arbitrator, is not impartial in nature, if there are any such reasonable or believable grounds are there, that is the ground for approaching the court for challenging the arbitrator. The second ground that I have told, arbitrator has been appointed, but he is not ready to go on with the work for one or the other reason, because of his incapacity or because that he is not ready to dispose of the matter within the time specified. Under these two circumstances, normally that the arbitrator's appointment that can be challenged before the court of law is also another the important aspect coming under the Arbitration Act is concerned. Now, in the Arbitration Act and the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996, the two most significant parts are under the model law, Part 1 and Part 2. Part 1 deals with domestic arbitration, and it is said that Part 1 is a complete code by itself, but Part 2 is concerned that it is only with reference to the appointment of the commercial arbitration agreements, foreign the arbitration awards is concerned. Part 2 only concerned with the enforcement of the foreign awards, only the limited scope. It is not said to be a complete code as such. But now what happens to the question, important question, suppose as per the parties agreement, this is the commercial international commercial arbitration agreement, and as per the parties, the agreement itself is concerned, this has to be taken place in a foreign country. But one of the party who is Indian, he wanted to approach the Indian courts for some relief. Can it be done is another important question. The arbitration itself is international commercial arbitration to be conducted in a foreign country. But one of the party who is a national of India, he wanted to approach the Indian courts. Such the peculiar situation that was come up before the Honorable Supreme Court. But the Honorable Supreme Court, that is the name of the case is Bhatia International versus bulk trade. In this particular case, Supreme Court, it has adopted a very innovative method. Their lordships have said that it is only for getting an interim relief by way of injunction. That's all. Even though that Part 2 is made applicable for the international commercial agreement is concerned, which deals with a limited aspect of the execution of the foreign awards are concerned, but the Honorable Supreme Court said the general principle in Part 1 can be adopted here only for the purpose of solving this, the interim relief or the injunctory relief is concerned. Therefore, adopting such a method, the Honorable Supreme Court innovatively said that Part 1 can be borrowed here only for the limited purpose, and the Indian court, though it is an international commercial arbitration agreement, but Indian court is having a jurisdiction to consider the relief of injunction or the interim relief is concerned. But I think subsequently what happens now, Section 2, Subclass 2 of the Arbitration and the Conciliation Act 1996 is concerned. I think a proviso was added by the way of amendment in 2015. Now what happens? Statutorily it is recognized now. By adding the proviso to Section 2, Subclass 2 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996, it is permissible now, even if it is a foreign, the commercial agreement, but so far as the interim or injunctive relief is concerned, but parties can approach the Indian courts only to that limited extent, and the court is having the jurisdiction to grant such a relief is concerned is also one of the important aspect that which you have to consider. And another important aspect are the segment of this, the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. Question comes like this. There is one contract between the two parties. No doubt there is an arbitration agreement clause is there. But contract itself is not admissible in evidence because of some legal infirmity. Say, for example, insufficiency of the stamps. Under the Stamp Act, the contract itself is not admissible. Now the question comes before the Honorable Supreme Court recently, and which has been dealt with by the full bench of the Honorable Supreme Court. Question here is, when the contract itself is invalid, whether the arbitration agreement clause, whether it also becomes invalid. But Supreme Court say, no, it cannot. This arbitration agreement clause in a contract, it is independent by itself. It cannot lose its the value. Even if the main contract is declared to be null and void, even if the main contract is not admissible in evidence, but the arbitration clause always it is independent and separate, therefore that will survive. Parties can still invoke the arbitration clause is also one of the important decision. I will give the citation. The 3-judge bench of the Honorable Supreme Court recently decided this matter, and one of the honorable judge of the Karnataka, His Lordship Justice Bhupana, is also the one of the judge in the bench. You can take the citation of this case, 2020 5 SCC 399. 2020 5 SCC 399, full bench, and the name of the case is, no, sorry, 1 minute. The citation is 2021 SCC online SC 1313. Name of the party, NN Global Mercantile Private Limited. NN Global Mercantile Private Limited, appellant versus Indo Unique Flame Limited and others. And in this particular case, the decision was taken, and before taking such the decision, their lordships have also referred to the judgments from the English Courts House of Lords in Fina Trust case, and also their lordships have made a reference to the cases decided by the American Supreme Court, USA Supreme Court, taking and the background and how the cases were dealt with in these two countries. After having a detailed discussion, their lordships ultimately laid down the proposition recently in 2021 in this particular case, that even if the contract, main contract, wherein this arbitration clause is also there, even if it is invalid for some reason, but the arbitration agreement, this will survive, and the parties can invoke for appointment of the arbitration and the settlement of their disputes through the arbitration mechanism is concerned. Therefore, like this, there are many judgments. I can also make submission that even today also that I have not studied at length about all these the decisions. I will go through all the materials, and another time we can have the interaction session. If there are any doubts from the brother and sister students, we can have interact with each other about this act is concerned. Anyhow, it is that we can go through in detail of referring to the judgments of the Honorable Supreme Court as well as Honorable High Courts are concerned. And I can lastly, I can grateful, I can say that Dr. Subramaniam given me the opportunity, and you have patiently heard this about the discussion and the bird's eye view that today I have given, and I am grateful to this institution, particularly to Dr. Subramaniam and Honorable Justice, my brother Judge Sri S.G. Pandit, Madam Ji, Susila Madam Ji, representing this BMC as a coordinator and having expertise and knowledge in the mediation matters. And I am also grateful to all my brothers and sister students also. Thank you one and all.
Thank you so much, sir, for your words of wisdom. Whether it was the stories of Sri Bachan Singh Thakur, Sri Shambhunath Pandit, or Sergeant Brill, one thing we learned in common is that dedication, perseverance, and hard work will never go to waste. We also thank you for diving deep and providing insights on concepts of arbitration that are contemporary and need to be researched about. We also thank Honorable Justice Sri Shankar Ganapathy Pandit, sir, of reminding us for the Martyrs' Day. Thank you, sir. With this, I now would like to invite Shreya to read the biodata of Srimati Sushila Sarathi ma'am, designated Senior Counsel, High Court of Karnataka. Please, Shreya.
I feel extremely honored to introduce the guest of honor, Advocate Sushila Sarathi, who is the designated Senior Counsel practicing in the High Court of Karnataka at Bangalore. She has done her master's in sociology, a postgraduate diploma in industrial relations and personal management, and postgraduate diploma in alternate dispute resolution from the International Center for Alternative Dispute Resolution. An inspiration to many, ma'am has been practicing for the last 33 years. Ma'am is a trained mediator and a master trainer from Bangalore Mediation Center. She has trained many lawyers, judges, professionals in mediation. Ma'am has authored 2 books on mediation. In English, Mediation, a Reader's Handbook and Change Through Mediation, and another in Kannada. She is a renowned columnist in leading Kannada dailies. She has a weekly blog which gives tips to trainers giving training in mediation. It is pertinent to note that her actions speak for itself, as she has been voluntarily and actively supporting young students from the School of Legal Studies, CMI University, and also contributing a great deal of opportunity in the field of mediation and other alternative dispute resolution systems. The presence of such a personality in today's function is a blessing. We hope that the students are able to seek a little guidance and imbibe something from our thoughts. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shreya. May I now invite Srimati Sushila Sarathi ma'am to enlighten us with a few words. Please, ma'am.
Honorable Mr. Justice Pandit sir, Honorable Mr. Justice Budihal sir, Shri Ramurthy, Honorable Chairman of the CMR Group, Chancellor and Provice Chancellors, Registrar and other faculty members, and our beloved Dean, Dr. T.R. Subramania sir, and my dear friends, students. It is a very great opportunity for me when I look at this from various angles. One is that an university to have a chair, an exclusive chair for arbitration and mediation or any other alternative dispute resolution mechanism is a remarkable movement for the university as well. I would like to congratulate all of you who are involved in this. More so Mr. Ramurthy sir, because after all, this is the best legacy he is leaving behind. For generations to come, people will look at CMR University. I hope and I wish that this chair of CMR University stands out and remains as Harvard of Karnataka University as far as mediation, arbitration, or any other ADR mechanism is concerned. I wish that it should happen. And with people like Mr. T.R. Subramaniam and others being there, I have no doubt that it will reach the pinnacle. Coming to today's topics, if the students have listened to His Lordship Mr. Justice Pandit sir, I think straight away you can write the exam on ADR mechanism and take 40 marks easily, if you just recollect what all His Lordship has said. And His Lordship Justice Budihal sir's every line gets underlined. It was an inspiration for me also. And look at the way in which he has analyzed everything. And I was taking notes when both the lordships were telling something. Everything is so very important. Look at their humility, humbleness, and the way in which they have come here to share their knowledge. They need not have to. This is something we need to inculcate. This is what takes a person one pedestal up above. Now coming to today's topic, why do we need ADR is one aspect that I need to consider. Now it's 11:20. I'm sure I will stop at exactly 15 minutes after this. You need not have to have any apprehension about it. When we consider it as ADR mechanism, it is not just alternative to dispute resolution mechanism. We are all aware of adjudication process, court monitored processes, we know about it. ADR mechanisms are not just alternative to dispute resolution mechanism through the courts. It has now come to a stage or reached a stage where we consider it as an additional mechanism or an appropriate mechanism also. If you see, there is a traffic jam there. If you still feel that I can use the bullock carts and travel from X place to Y place, weren't our ancestors doing the same? Weren't they living happily with that? You can think, but you will always fail. Time has come now to take an alternate path wherever it is possible, because where there is a traffic jam, you can't go. Considering the population of our country, infrastructure facility of our country that is provided, and the judge and the litigant ratio, judge and the common man's ratio, all these aspects, and the availability of number of courts, etc., logistics, all these aspects, I don't think everyone who wants to avail the benefit of getting what justice according to him is, that is perceived justice, or actually what exactly is justice is, it is impossible. It is in this context we need to look at the alternatives, be it arbitration, be it mediation, or be it conciliation, or in negotiation, etc. Why do we need this? Do you mean to say that all the time that we have spent in reading volumes of books should get wasted? Is it only by talking to each other if we can get the matter resolved? Should we have to go to this exercise at all? Should I be graduated from schools of law? These are all some of the questions. And some of us, I'm 59-year-old now. Some of us also will feel, should we look at these alternative mechanisms at all? Definitely yes. Because substantive law is something, procedural law is something. Assuming for a while, we are three sisters, my parents, both the parents are not there, it is my father's self-acquired property. If I had to file a suit for partition against my two sisters, definitely as per the substantive law, I have to get 1/3 share. But in order to get that, physically in order to get that, how much I have to struggle? There is procedural law also. Procedural law, you have to, some of the students, you have to go through Professor Tom Taylor's Principles of Procedural Justice. He's a professor of Yale School of Law. We can't ignore procedural justice also. Substantive law and procedural law has to be taken care of when a matter goes before the court. We see when many matters come before the High Court or the Supreme Court, we see many matters are challenged on various procedural aspects. This is done, this is not done, this is done, this is not done. There is insufficiency of stamp, there is no insufficiency of stamps. The document is a duplicate copy, this is a original copy. This is a Xerox copy, it should not be admitted in evidence. So many aspects. Procedural laws are different. Now, when we come to alternative dispute resolution mechanism, we are keeping these aspects aside for a while and then asking the parties to consider what a person wants and why does he want what he wants. We consider both position and interest. Position is what I want. Interest is why I want what I want. Both the parts are taken care of. In a suit for partition filed by a brother who is in US against his elder brother and other two brothers who are in village for his 1/4 share in the properties, when I ask him, what do you want? I want my 1/4 share. Fair enough. Why do you want 1/4 share? When me and my wife went to the house of my elder brother's wife misbehaved with my wife. She did not invite us properly. If they had accepted as one of the family members, probably I would not have filed this suit at all. Now, by any stretch of imagination, I want that 1/4 share in the house. I want to sit there. Look at this. Why he wants? Not because he wants the share in the property. He wants share in the property because he is hurt somewhere. These hurt feelings cannot be recognized by courts of law. That is where we need to go through the alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. There are some cases, a person has got a will in his hand. Another daughter says, I have got a gift by my father. Another person says, there's a family settlement which is unregistered. Maybe these are all matters of adjudication. But if the parties want to keep all these aside, and if they want to look at something else, then probably these matters can be resolved. I had a wonderful, I would like to share one wonderful example. Suit for, there was a partnership business amongst 5 brothers. 4 brothers were on one side, 5th brother was on the other side. The 5th brother was the managing partner of the entire firm, and the firm had a business of 4 generations. This was the 4th generation. This 5th brother mismanaged the whole thing, and the whole business came to a doldrum. All the 4 brothers were very rich. They wanted the matter to be resolved, and they said, let this person walk out. We will invest our own money, and this is a family business. We do not want it to fall down. We will take it up, but this brother has to go out. So the brother who should walk out, the 5th brother, he said, I want 10 lakh rupees. Yes. When we are about to write the mediation settlement, he would say, I want 20 lakh rupees. I want 30 lakh rupees. I want 40 lakh rupees. Every time it went on increasing. And one fine day I asked, Mr. So-and-so, can you please help me understand what is it that's troubling you? One single sentence. This is what is called strategic questions. There are different types of questioning skills you will learn if you undergo mediation training. One strategic question. I asked him, what is it that is troubling you? This is also an empathetic question. You are empathizing with the other person, trying to understand the other person as that person wants to be understood, not from your own perspective. If you understand from your own perspective, here is a brother who has spoiled the entire family business of 4 generations. No, you need to understand him from his perspective. When I ask this question, that person says, Madam, if I take some money and walk out of this partnership business, it is as though I am not born to my father. I am not part of this famous family at all. It is as though only 4 of them are born to my father. It is as though only 4 of them belong to this famous family. I can't digest this. Look at his concern. We arrange a joint session again. I ask the same question again. The brother answers the same question to me in the presence of the 4 brothers. They also understand the concern of the brother. The matter gets resolved. The brother takes just 10,000 rupees per annum as a sleeping partner. The family business continues. The matter gets resolved. Look at the same position. If we had come to the court, what would have happened? I have a lot of respect for the courts. I am also a litigating lawyer. I earn my bread out of that also. But what is required is you need to know where you have to use which mechanism, which is appropriate mechanism. Ultimately, what your client wants is justice. If you can get that to him within a given time and within the framework of law, without crossing the barriers of legal formalities, definitely he will say. I request all the students to be prepared to undergo training in mediation. When you undergo training in mediation, you will learn lots of skills. You will learn lots of communication skills. Skills and techniques, different techniques, negotiation techniques you will learn. You will be excellent in your personal life also. You will excel in your professional lives also. Many of the skills that you learn through mediation training or training in mediation advocacy, they will help you to be excellent lawyer, even in courtroom processes also. Many strategies, many techniques that you adopt in courtroom atmosphere may not be suitable in mediation atmosphere. But many of the things that you adopt, you learn here will definitely be helpful there in the courtroom process. Any judge can make out, here is a person who is a mediator lawyer. Any lawyer can make out, here is a judge who is a mediator judge. Many of the High Court judges, the former Chief Justice of our High Court, who later became Chief Justice of India, Mr. Kehar Saab, he underwent the training. Many of our High Court judges have undergone this training. The present sitting judge of Supreme Court, Honorable Mr. Justice Nazir Saab, he has undergone training in mediation. Metamorphosis will come. You will agree to disagree with others very gracefully. You will be assertive but not aggressive. There are so many aspects in mediation. You will know how to get what you want. You will learn different skills of negotiation. As mediator, we cannot negotiate. We have to assist in negotiation. In fact, in our office, when there are trained mediators and trained persons who are trained in mediation advocacy, the clients come to us and ask us, why don't you send a person who is trained in mediation with us, who is trained in mediation advocacy? They are paid very well because they know how to assist in mediation, how to get parties what they want. And they will also help them understand this is all you can get. This is something which you cannot get. Desire should tally with possibilities. The client may have unrealistic expectation, but if you are trained in mediation advocacy, what you do is client counseling. You will know how to do client counseling. Many of the professionals, lawyers, we fail because we take the pressure, internal pressure of the client as our own pressure. We take the expectations of the client as our own expectations. When a client fails, we see that we are failing in the court of law. If you undergo this training, you will know where exactly your client stands, and you will never argue. You will only make submissions before the honorable court, and you will prepare the client. Look, this is the position of law. This is what it is. This is what I can do. This is what I cannot do. This is what the judge may do because of the precedents. Because of various other things, we do not know what will happen. We will prepare the mindset of the client so that what happens is your pressure also gets reduced if the result goes against your client, and the client also is prepared to see. This is some aspect that I request all of you to consider. In fact, there is Thomas Crum, who is a famous author, and he's also a well-known person in the field of conflict resolution. He says that the quality of your life does not depend upon whether we have conflict or we do not have conflict, because conflict is inevitable. We will have, every individual will have, irrespective of our positions in life, every individual will have conflict in life, but how we respond to them is very important. Parties sometimes do not know how they respond to the conflict. It is then we take them and we make them understand this is the way in which you can respond. Please understand, there are some cases which are fit for mediation. If you go by the AFCON's judgment, it gives a lengthy list of cases that can be referred to mediation. A family matter can be referred to mediation. Definitely, a judge of the High Court can refer Supreme Court. From Supreme Courts also we get matter referred, or in the first instance, family court also can refer the matter. Any number of times a matter gets referred to, get referred to mediation. But referring the matter to mediation is something. Cases fit for mediation is something. Cases ripe for mediation is something. As a petition for divorce filed by the husband, where the wife and husband are separated for more than 10 years. The husband is ready to give a handsome alimony. The wife says, I will agree for divorce. Okay, shall we write the agreement? No, but not now, after my daughter gets married. What's your daughter's age? 8-year-old. Then the case is fit for mediation, but it is not ripe for mediation. Another case between a creditor and a borrower. Yes, I have borrowed sum of 10 lakh rupees with interest. It has become now 23 lakh rupees. Now the lender, that is the creditor, has agreed to accept 50% of the principal amount. 10 lakhs mein adha, 50%, that's 5 lakh rupees. If he gives 5 lakh rupees, if I give 5 lakh rupees, he will be happy. I am really happy about it. Shall we write the agreement? When are you going to pay? When God gives me. When will God give you? I do not know. I don't have even 5,000 rupees to pay. So there are some cases which are fit for negotiation, but not, there is no possibility. You can negotiate, but is it ripe for the ultimate result? Not possible. These are all some of the aspects. That's where it has to go back to the court. At least if court passes a decree there, probably for 12 long years, he can wait. Incidentally, if God gives him money, he can get it executed and he may get the money back. What I'm requesting all the students to do is kindly be part of mediation advocacy. Kindly be part of this mediation training process. Get yourself equipped with all these things. These are all additional tools. If you are interested, you can even get yourself trained. Those who can afford can get trained through Harvard, Pepperdine. These are all famous universities. Harvard's program on negotiation is there. And your university can even think of having some collaboration with some of the reputed universities, and then having some programs here so that all of you can get benefited. And I would like to see each one of you becoming a professional who is also trained in mediation advocacy and also trained in mediation. Thank you all the best.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Your bullock-cart analogy of how we need to adapt to the changing time is very true today. We also thank you for giving us live examples of how mediation can help resolve conflicts that were not thought to be resolvable. Thank you, ma'am. May I now request Shreya to introduce our beloved Vice Principal, Professor Vijay Praneshwaran, sir.
I now present to you all our Vice Principal, Professor Vijay Praneshwaran. After completing his BAL LLB, he got on the rolls of Karnataka Bar Council in the year 1999. Also joined the chambers of Messrs. P.H. Mohammed Associates. Further, Sir practiced as an independent advocate, handled matters across almost all the streams. Furthermore, Sir has completed his LLM in the constitutional law alongside MPhil in law. He joined CMR Law School as a full-time faculty in the year 2006 and was promoted as vice principal in the year 2007. Currently, Sir is pursuing his PhD from Bangalore University on the topic A Study of Laws Relating to Armed Forces and the Protection of Human Rights in India. Under his guidance, there has been n number of students passing out every year with great character and enthusiasm to contribute as much as he did. We feel really privileged to have all the dignitaries today with us in the inauguration ceremony of the ADR Center in CMI University School of Legal Studies. Thank you.
Thank you, Shreya. May I now request our Vice Principal, Professor Vijay Praneshwaran, sir, to deliver the vote of thanks. Please, sir.
Thank you, Shreya, and thank you, Hariharan. It is indeed a momentous day at School of Legal Studies, Seymour University, starting one of the brainchilds of our beloved Dean to have centers. And what better to start off than alternate dispute resolution. On that note, not further elaborating, I will straight away get into my job of proposing the formal vote of thanks. Indeed, it was our pleasure at having Honorable Mr. Justice S.G. Pandit, Judge High Court of Karnataka, for having inaugurated the center and also delivering the inauguration address. His Lordship, very busy today. He has a sitting. In spite of it, he's been with us throughout the program. We are very thankful to you, sir, and we look forward to having more of your lectures to our students. Thank you very much for joining, and thank you very much for inaugurating the center. We are also very grateful to Honorable Mr. Justice Budihal, Acting Chairman, Karnataka State Administrative Tribunal, for having given us an inspirational account of how hard work pays and how ADR and the nuances of ADR. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. In fact, sir traveled and is in our campus and he's joined us. He's sitting along with the dean. That's a great pleasure for all of us and a great inspiration to everybody here and to the center. Thank you very much, Your Lordship. We will also look forward to, sir is also an expert in procedural, I think, especially CRPC. I've heard a lot of his lectures on YouTube. So we can look forward to having his Lordship's more of his lectures. Thank you, Your Lordship, for joining us. We are also very thankful to Advocate Sushila Sarathi, Madam, Senior Counsel. Of course, she's always been associated with us with any program with regard to mediation. We have hosted a couple of workshops and seminars on mediation, and we also look forward to having a training session like Madam suggested. Definitely, we will think of hosting through the university so that all from even outside the university are benefited. And thank you also for explaining to our students the importance of the alternate dispute resolution mechanisms. Thank you very much, Madam, for joining us. We are also thankful to our beloved Chairman, Shri K.C. Ramamurthy, IPS retired and Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, for joining us. Again, in spite of his busy schedule, the budget session is going on, still he has joined us. But for his encouragement and support, all that we are achieving here in School of Legal Studies is due to his support and encouragement. Thank you very much, sir. We are also grateful and thankful to the authorities of the university. We had Pro Vice Chancellor Dr. Bhaskar Reddy, Dr. K.R. Suresh along with us. Also our Registrar, Dr. Praveen, gracing this occasion. Thank you very much to all the authorities. We are also thankful to all the deans and directors of our sister institutions for gracing this occasion. I'm also thankful to all the faculty for joining us and assisting in making this inaugural function and inauguration of this ADR center a successful one. Also the volunteers who have worked, especially the today's MC and the other Shreya and Vidisha, for having worked tirelessly. In fact, we have had about 6 or 7 training sessions on this, how to make the presentations. It has worked wonders, and thank you very much. And not to forget, and not the students. Thank you all students, dear students, for joining us in this effort in inaugurating the center. We are also looking forward to inaugurating 2 more centers in the pipeline, probably in another 15 days time. And I also thank all the technical service providers, technical team for seamless functioning of this program, online program. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I thank each and every one of you for joining today and making the inauguration of the ADR Center a grand success. I especially thank all the dignitaries and members of CMR University who have joined us despite the busy schedule. I also thank the faculty members and the students for joining us today. Thank you all. Have a nice day.